Hi, and welcome to the WHIRL Cafe. The WHIRL Cafe is a new podcast where we are going to be showcasing all of the positive things, people, and places in Western Pennsylvania. We will be focusing on healthy lifestyle and luxury. Luxury doesn't mean the most expensive, but it does mean the best. And that is who we're going to be talking with as well. We will be talking with the owners and founders of businesses and the people who are really involved in activating our community and providing inspiration for all of us. Welcome, and we hope you have a great time in this next episode of WHIRL Cafe. Welcome to WHIRL Cafe. I'm here today with Shawn Fox, CEO of Oxford Development Company, and we are talking about what's happening in Pittsburgh and the surrounding areas. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into this position at such a young age.
Well, hopefully I'm younger than I look. 'Cause, truly middle age at this point. I got the aches and pains to prove it, but lifelong Pittsburgher, lived in Washington, D.C. for a short period, grew up in Westview, went to North Hills High School, and how I got to Oxford, actually, just my career in general, started in government and politics. It was something always around my family. You know, I think someone in my family always had a politically connected job along the way, and went to Indiana University of Pennsylvania, and started really getting into history, civil rights movement, what was happening in our country, and being a part of change or, current events. Really started to drive my thinking and my actions. And I worked on Capitol Hill for a little bit for Congressman Jim Clyburn, who was at that time head of the Congressional Black Caucus, pretty influential congressional member, and came back, worked on political campaigns, ended up being the chief of staff to County Executive Dan Honorado. So that was he won in 2004. And worked alongside him for, those 8 years, and I got to understand real estate a little bit, got to understand at that point we were really trying to get anyone to invest in real estate in Pittsburgh, to do development, whether it's by the airport, whether it's in the city. We were in a much different place as a region then. You remember, I always, as a young person, the big topic that we coined then as a region was the brain drain, that we had all these college kids that were leaving this region to go to other opportunities and all those things happening. And it was kind of neat being a young person to try to reverse that trend. So got to know real estate a little bit. Dan ran for governor, and I had a young family, and I said, win or lose, I'm out of this. This is getting crazy. I need to make some money for myself and, go about the next chapter of my life. And went to Oxford Development Company, started working for that current CEO, Steve Guy, and Ann Lewis, that is still the chair of our board. And first things that we started putting together was projects in the Strip District that we did with Chuck Hamill and what has become Three Crossings. We did some other projects, apartments in the South Side, some flex office space, flex industrial space out by the airport, and always had a more entrepreneurial bug. And coming from politics, I wanted to continue to hone my financial skills. So I went to Schneider Downs Investment Banking Company, a private equity firm. We were a broker-dealer, and we were doing investment real estate throughout the country, and started doing my own underwriting and understanding markets and how other developers and real estate operating companies structure themselves, and got to understand the tax side of the business and how we value that from a real estate perspective. And from there, I met a guy by the name of John Declois through friends, and we started our own real estate company. Doing that for about 7 years. We still own assets all throughout town. Name of the RDC is the name of the operating business. We did about $500 million worth of development. And tell everyone the first deal I ever did outside of Oxford, where I was my own sponsor and had to guarantee a loan, a big one, with my partners and raise all the capital, was a spec office building. And a month into construction, Facebook knocks on our door. And this was probably 2017. So a month into construction, you're like, oh my gosh, are we going to lease this building? Is it going to happen? And Facebook knocks on the door and we get a lease done in probably 30 days. And
Wow.
I was like, this is easy. Yeah, this is going to happen every time, right? But
Kind of.
yeah, exactly.
Kind of did, though.
It does, but obviously we've been going through a cycle in real estate.
Right.
And fast forward, the opportunity came to come back to Oxford, bigger platform, bigger company. Our goals as a real estate operator and developer have always been to go beyond Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a market for real estate. It's a good market, but it's a hard market. We're not a town that has a lot of transactional volume in real estate, right? We have topo issues, geography issues, soil issues, tunnel issues. We don't have a beltway. So in and of itself, it's a challenging market for real estate. And, but what you learn in Pittsburgh is that you have to be disciplined. You have to run good real estate. You got to build to budgets. You can't overestimate rent growth. And we want to take that show on the road.
You are making such an impact in this city, and you already have, and I don't really think you understand how much you have. So I'm really excited.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah.
I'm so excited for this because one of the things that I really want to do with this podcast is to have it based in hard statistics and facts that are really shocking. And so one of those statistics I'm just going to start with, when you talk about Facebook coming and you're talking about the different kind of real estate entities that you've brought into development, and I've seen some of those just at the helm alone in the Strip District. With the flex spaces for living and office spaces and the unbelievable clubhouse there. The way that has energized just that one development and the entire strip is what everybody's looking for. We're supposedly one of the top tourist destinations on the East Coast now because of the Strip District.
Yep. Well, it's been great. I would say working in first government and politics and now real estate, it feels like my whole career I've gotten to invest in our community and do things that weren't done 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And the Strip District is a big example of that. And to the point we've been talking free live is we don't do enough as a region to talk about the successes we have and how to grow them and what those successes mean for the other things we want to accomplish as a community, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's social programs, whether it's, investment in infrastructure. You can do those things if you're growing a tax base. So beyond those things that, a lot of those buildings we started with Oxford, let's say 2010, 2012, you have companies like, the first company we had was Apple. We have Bosch. We have the company that's in our building, Oshkosh, that owns GLGI. They're doing automated lifts for construction sites. Smith & Nephew was a company that is a publicly traded company that does robotic surgeries. Started in knees. It was a CMU spin-out. Ford is still a tenant in our building. Excelitas is moving in. They make fiber optic lenses throughout the world, and they're headquartered down in Pittsburgh. And I hope, we sometimes get into a political recourse here or discourse here that is, in my mind, a race to the bottom, instead of trying to build us up to say, if we're growing our population, if we're growing jobs, if we have a plan to do that, that is when you can invest in roads. That's when you can invest in more social programs, and that's when you can invest in more affordable housing. And I feel like we need to say that more because we complement each other, right? As a developer, we can only develop where there's growth. We can't develop where there's not, or there's no reason for us to continue to, right? Because it's a lot of risk. It's a lot of risk.
I agree with you so much with everything you've said. You're the total package when it comes to this because you've seen it
I've
from the
heard that
political
before. I mean,
standpoint.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
From your wife.
That's right. Well, no, especially not from her.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
not
know,
from her.
or my kids.
Right,
That's for
right.
true. Maybe myself. I'm just telling myself.
But you
that.
are for in the sense of being a developer and being able to see this from the political standpoint and what is coming up. Here are the statistics I've been so excited to tell
All
you.
right.
Okay,
Let's hear 'em.
the median age in Pittsburgh is 33.3. 33.3 median age. Can you believe that?
You know,
I mean, ready for this? Ready for this?
I'm ready.
And
Hit me.
I'm giving you so much
Hit
of
me.
the credit. Pittsburgh is the third youngest city in the nation. Did you hear me?
Yep.
Did you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, now I'm claiming these as our, I said this earlier, as our Rolling Rock numbers. 33. This is,
I like that.
this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unreal. The population, in fact, has not grown that much. That is true. But what has gone down are the 65 and up.
That's
So
right.
unfortunately, we do have a previous problem with cancer here because of previous environmental conditions, which I believe have been addressed.
Mm-hmm.
There are some on the horizon of which I do have concern. We'll talk about that another time.
Okay.
However, the biggest population right now, the group is 20 to 24. What is happening here? I'm giving you so much credit for building those where it comes from. If you build it, they'll come. When you build quality buildings, when you do that, that will make a difference. When you are positive, we have 30 new restaurants opening in Pittsburgh in the next 3 months. I don't know what the number 3 is with all this consistency, but it's there, 30 in 3 months. We're worried about what to do with certain people and what to do to bring them up to speed. We have a huge booming service industry and a potential and an opportunity to be known as the top service industry in the country because of this. It's so exciting. You can't believe it. More than 47% of people in our region have a college degree.
That's right.
47%.
That's right.
I mean, we are in the booming place above New York. The only cities above us with younger populations are Boston and Dallas. And then Pittsburgh. Shawn,
Yeah.
I really honestly believe that these patterns are indicative of changes and thought patterns that you guys had 20 years ago. And that's why Facebook came in. It's why the robotics, our tie with California is huge because of the robotics. So as soon as I go to California, people automatically talk about the robotics back here. So,
Well, that's good to hear.
I mean, is this exciting? I say it's shocking.
It is. I would tell you, that's why we were able to capitalize these investments, and we, it's great story, it's great news, and I think to your point, when you look at population, we have this conversation with investors that we're trying to bring in here all the time, and in some circles, developers is a 4-letter word, especially, and there's NIMBYism and things like that. And I understand it. But we have to be the biggest cheerleaders of our region because we are constantly investing, are constantly trying to convince lenders, bankers, investors, large investors to invest in our region. And you constantly go through that population story, right? Oh, you're losing population, you're stagnant.
Yeah.
And we say, look, we've had one of the oldest populations. We have a very high death rate because of that. And unfortunately, those people are going, they're
gone.
going south or north in one way or another, right? And if you look, if we're staying flat, you're seeing that our incomes and our education level is going like this, and the population keeps getting younger. So what does that tell you? There's opportunity here. And I would say as a developer, the one thing I say we we contribute to the economic cycle. We don't start it. There has to be, the Facebooks have to want to be here because there's good colleges and education, and, CMU is here and Pitt is here. And we did, prior to Oxford, my partner and I did with other partners, Commonwealth, and AIG was our limited partner investor, one of the biggest investors in the world invested with us. Local lender, we did Brewers Block, 377 units, $90 million project, 400 jobs. You're talking about half of the 500 people that live there are new to Pittsburgh. Half of them are new to Pittsburgh. So that's all new wage tax, all new property taxes, all new people spending money at restaurants, going to Lawrenceville to shop at the local boutiques and the local coffee shops. And, 30% of the people that work there work in healthcare. We have an amazing research hospital, and we have an amazing healthcare system, both with UPMC and AHN and Highmark. And, that's a big part of it, right? And so the robotics, the tech, and I think it's up to us as a region to try to help them grow, right? We want more robotics. We want more med tech. We want our financial services businesses to grow. And, and obviously there was a time when interest rates started soaring. Who does it hurt? It hurts real estate. It hurts venture. So a lot of those venture-backed companies took a hit. And, I think it's up for a region to rally and come up with other solutions to continue to help our organic companies grow that are spinning out of these universities, and get other companies to realize the opportunity you have here to come into a low-cost living environment, which means that your employees get more for their bang for their buck in this region. And, they're staying here now. They like it here.
Their families are here. The more than 40, I think it's 47% own homes here.
Mm-hmm.
The average cost of a home is $140,000. Now, the average income is what I'm seeing is only $38,000. So there's a disparity there, but I feel like that's going to pop up. That will pop up because it will reflect the changes, hopefully. But those numbers are astounding. And I mean, I went to the bank yesterday, and the fellow waiting on me was from Western Massachusetts,
mm-hmm.
and he got here by way of Naples, Florida, where he met his wife, who happened to be from Pittsburgh originally, and boom, they're back here raising their family.
Pittsburgh South, Naples, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
and he loves it.
Yeah.
He loves it here. So, but I really feel that the bottom line, though, and the basis of it, I do have to disagree with you a bit. I do think it is the foresight of the infrastructure and what it's going to be like. Pittsburgh's does have different issues because of its limited growth. We're never going to be.
That's right.
Yeah, we're never going to be that big unless it's going to be in the outlying areas for extension for our population, which is what we try to do, right? To say, well, we're really 2 million because you take into factor all these other suburbs. The reality is that for just that downtown part, it is still only within the 300,000. But that's okay. That's okay. We are what we are. Hi, so I wanted to give you a little bit of a background about WHIRL magazine and its new media model. I have been in publishing for 25 years, a longtime journalist in magazine and television as an assignment editor and a producer, and also in radio. I hosted my own radio show when I went to the great University of Pittsburgh. So now, with all of the changes in media, there has really become a lot of opportunity for community involvement. And that's what I'm focusing on with WHIRL magazine right now. The magazine reads backwards and forwards. It reads in two directions. 80% of men open a magazine from the back. Check it out the next time you look at a magazine. If you're a guy, you might just naturally pick it up. Women prefer to read it in their lap and open it page by page. So the magazine has two different directions, and it meets in the middle with weddings. For this, it won an award from Folio magazine, which is the publisher's magazine in New York City, as one of the top magazines in 2023. Now, what we're doing is we're really incorporating all of the different platforms onto one WHIRL brand. What that means is that we're focusing on healthy lifestyle and luxury in luxury print, keepsake, as well as digital. We have social media, a newsletter, and now podcasts on our YouTube channel. It's really important that we give our clients information that's going to be useful for them with their businesses as well. So, all of our clients also receive authentic editorial and all of the analytics about their social media. We really feel responsible to give our clients the best experience in media, and we really hope that we can engage our entire community all around the WHIRL Magazine brand. Stay tuned for more terrific ideas. And from me, Christine, thank you so much for all of your support.
Pittsburgh, same geographic region of the city of Pittsburgh, once had 600,000 people.
Really?
600,000 people lived within our city limits. Same geographic boundaries.
How? It seems
Neighborhoods that have been, when we lost all of our industry, right, that affected us throughout the region and in the city of Pittsburgh. So think about neighborhoods that you've probably never been to that have been, disinvested in. And, whether it's hilltop communities, whether it's some of the South Hills communities, whether it's whatever those communities are, whatever those neighborhoods are, but within the same geographic limit, think about that for the city of Pittsburgh, we had 600,000 people.
So is that a goal to get back to that?
I don't think we can. I don't think it's achievable, but the one thing I say as someone that understands our region as a real estate investor is we don't have a beltway in Pittsburgh like a lot of communities. So, if I'm looking to build new apartments, we did a project in the North Hills called the Foundmore, right off of McKnight Road, and literally right off of McKnight Road, like right next to the mall. On the other side, it was a former Pace Sam's Club and a Chi-Chi's, if you remember Chi-Chi's.
Sure.
And we put 17 townhomes and 289 apartments, great clubhouse, pool, cool amenities for young people, really nice fitness center, all the above. And, someone that grew up close to there, I'm like, man, this is going to be great. This is 5 minutes from downtown. The Strip District is all right here. And when I talk to people in Pittsburgh, like, who'd want to live right on McKnight Road? Like, this is crazy. And I would tell you at least faster than our projects in the Strip District. And I say that because in the suburbs, I only feel there's certain spots to continue to want to develop commercially. Could there be more single family as you get further out? There obviously is, but I think people's habits have changed.
I do too. It's so anecdotally, it is so evident to me.
Yep.
I mean, I've seen so many young families who are living in apartments and walking everywhere, taking their children everywhere.
I think it's different. They want different experiences. It's I don't think they're willing to compromise to move that far away from urban amenities, whether it's unique shopping, whether it's events at the convention center that you go to, take your kids to, whatever the case may be. I still think that that's changed people's feelings about where they want to settle.
Is it less the single family home that you're seeing more of? Is that? I mean, to me, when I see it now, it makes no sense to have one of these huge homes now. It seems illogical practically.
I think there's an expectation of. I think the starter home concept for a lot of people is not the expectation of this generation, how they live through college.
Right.
I'm sure when I went to college, I wanted to get out of my apartment. My house actually felt better than the fire trap I was living at IUP. But, there's a different lifestyle through college. And I think that set people's expectations on what a starter home is to them and what that means in terms of maintenance and cost and down payment. And, on top of your mortgage, then you got taxes and you got insurance. And I think people are willing to wait and take whatever that next house they want to go that's beyond the starter home price. I do feel there's a different expectation. That's just anecdotal.
Yeah.
But I would say out of all the apartments that we own, the thing we lose residents the most to is first time home buyers, not to people relocating for a job, not to people that do not like the city of Pittsburgh or even the suburbs of Pittsburgh. It's they're taking that next step in their life to buy a home.
When you talk about that concept, is that something that you're seeing in other cities too? When you're looking for other cities to invest for investments, are you noticing these same kind of trends, or is it?
Yeah, I think it's it's the population buckets of right, the boomers, the millennials, or whatever. I'm somewhere in between there. I don't know what I am.
I'm past all those.
Well, I forget what I am. I've gotten too old to remember, but I think it's just those cycles of population and where they're at in their in their life. But I would say as a challenge to Pittsburgh here is a market we love is Columbus. Columbus,
Oh,
Ohio.
okay.
Columbus added 20,000 people last year. Added. And they added a couple 100,000 jobs. And they have a very aggressive approach to economic development. They have a very aggressive approach to getting people to want to locate there.
What is it?
I think it's a couple things. I think, they, from the local and state level, invest heavily into corporate relocation. And our governor is definitely taking those steps. And the one thing they have when they privatized the liquor stores in Ohio, they set up a system where when they did that, it went and funneled into economic development programs. So they have a really dedicated revenue source that we don't have yet in PA, which, I think the biggest thing as developer in Pittsburgh is our governor. He has been, I think, just get you going because he actually wants to talk about growth. He wants to talk about investing into companies, into real estate, and it feels like we haven't had that in a leadership position in a while, both at the state or local level. And my argument is, look how good his approval ratings are. So, that leadership and investment into economic development and growth, obviously people like it, and it's across political spectrums. But I think Ohio in general, obviously they have Ohio State in Columbus. It's a state capital, and there's a history of retail and distribution there. Victoria's Secret, Abercrombie and Fitch, and others. And then they are getting more, I would say, Intel plant. They have data centers have taken off there. Hyundai opened up a plant there. They definitely have a little bit more of a corporate relocation and some even manufacturing going on that it doesn't feel like we've taken that step yet as a region.
So you're referring to our governor with the and I was at the groundbreaking for the Arts Landing project.
Yeah.
Which is a really cool project. And it feels like there's a lot of money coming in here with the draft. There's a lot of push for that. So it feels like Pittsburgh's getting its shine on. We're certainly getting dressed up for 2026, right?
Absolutely. I think, I think the NFL draft will be huge for us. 250,000 or whatever it is, they may be renting out your basement to people coming in. But I think beyond that, the governor's taking a more systematic approach to development for Pennsylvania and truly going to help our region. We've talked about preparing sites. Data centers are big talk in real estate, which is outside the city. And, they're not, they're just massive developments, massive amount of infrastructure. But I think to your point, I hope, right, what you're talking about a lot now is, we had some NIH, things are going on federally with NIH funding, things are going on there. But the momentum we had pre-COVID, it feels like we need to get it back a little bit because autonomous vehicles were taking off at that point. Robotics, there was so much capital flowing into robotics. Right. And I think it's up to us to pick up the slack and keep it going as the market recovers.
I think a lot of that's AI fear. I think people will get over it though when they realize how much we're using AI as it is. I always remind people that in any kind of capacity. If you're just using Google, you're using AI.
That's right.
Any kind of system like that. But I think when we get to the breach that point where it is sort of these human looking robots, but we need to get back. I agree. We need to get to that because that's where we're headed. Um, One of the things that when we talk about the structure of the city and this region and we compare it to other places like Columbus, I'm really excited about the positive things that we're seeing, because it feels to me that we are connecting with young people in other places. Something that was said again, but before we started talking, is that a lot of people aren't interested in staying in one place anymore. They're really looking at moving around. So how does something like that factor in when you're looking at how to structure Oxford development for you? You say you wanted to take it into other parts of the country.
Yeah.
What does that look like? I mean, it's not, you don't just say, okay, Columbus, you're separate from Pittsburgh. You've got, there's a symbiotic relationship there where you're seeing populations moving in certain ways. I mean, I'm beginning to understand how much you use statistics for where you're going to define your next move.
That's exactly right. Data's really important to understanding, what's behind a real estate investment, because
Right.
there's large investments, and I think for Ray, we know in the Midwest we're not going to be able to control the weather. We're not going to be Florida. We're not even going to be North Carolina that much from a weather perspective. But what we offer in the Midwest, I think, again, quality of living, affordability, growth in certain markets, and I think that's important to people. And I would tell you too, Columbus, because it feels like it's only 3 hours away. I use my daughter as the example, who lives at Brewers Block, who she graduated West Virginia a couple years ago, kind of coming out of COVID. She got into a leadership rotational program at Highmark, but it was work from home. And I think for her in particular, she was a cheerleader at West Virginia, very social, wasn't ready to leave because she felt she missed it, and she got to come home and work from our house. And she was a miserable person. Oh man, I please send this to her, because she was absolutely miserable. And work started changing in the 3 days a week. I said, Jenna, go to the office, go in, and she's, no one's there, Dad. I don't. It doesn't really benefit me to go in. And then, I need to get out of Pittsburgh. So anytime she had the opportunity to leave, even if it was during the week, work from home, she went to see a friend in Raleigh, or she went to see a friend in New York, or she went to Nashville. And it was like, how long will it take me to get out of Pittsburgh? And so we finally said, all right, let's move you into Brewers Block, our new apartments. And she loved that. And she started riding the bus to work 3 days a week. And she came back. And she was like, oh, I met all these people here. There's all these young people that live at Brewers Block. I can walk to
Right.
Lawrenceville and get a coffee. There's more things to do here. I'd be like, Jenna, did you check this out? I'm not going there, Dad. I'm not doing this. And then when she's actually living in that environment
Right.
and around other people, it felt again like, one, she was having social experience that she was missing. And I think the second thing with work from home, it's kind of separate from Pittsburgh, is she felt like she was adulting. Like, she was taking the step of not like graduating and the end result is coming back to your family's house. It was that advancing in a career, and I'm now taking the next step to live on my own and managing those things. And then she's met more friends by doing that than ever. And so now I don't even think it's on her radar. She's not
To leave.
I think she feels that this is cool. I can make Pittsburgh work.
I think that's again, but again, it harkens back to you downplay the importance of the structure. So you downplay the importance of the Brewers Block, and I respect that you do that. It's just my job here to really highlight, why I wanted to talk to you,
Mm-hmm.
and why I want your perspective, and why I want other people to hear it, because it feels to me that you're 20 years ahead. of what people are doing and how they're living. So even the story about that with your daughter, my own daughter, I'm ready to. Okay, I'm gonna move her down
We have
there.
an apartment for her. Yeah, we have a spot for her. We have a spot
I'm
for
ready.
her.
I'm ready. She's awesome. But that's exactly the kind of thing that we're talking about, where if you can do that in Pittsburgh, you probably can do that in other cities as well.
Well,
So is that something else you can kind of transfer or translate that?
yeah, I mean, the skills you learn here are really transferable because it's really hard to develop here and own real estate here. Just
Like New York, New York.
it is. I mean, we have old, industrial land, so that
Oh, right.
environmental issues. You have every site. There's Pittsburgh flat is the term we use here because nothing's flat, right? If
Oh.
a site's like this, you're just like, that's Pittsburgh flat. You can make that work. So there's challenges. You go to Columbus and it just is flat. It's not Pittsburgh flat. So there is, and I would say to your point, what as a member of this community, what I am proud of, I think looking back, is mentioned Brewers Block. Obviously, we did almost $1 billion of development at Oxford in the city of Pittsburgh, and the project we are about to start, just broke ground on 21 West, is a $100 million project.
Wow.
Directly across from PNC Park.
Wow.
Next level living. You're talking a Miami, Nashville type project.
Right across from PNC Park.
Directly.
The most wonderful location to live. I mean,
it's gonna Vegas style pool and sky bars. There's a sauna and spa within the facility, balconies looking into the stadium.
Oh, wow.
And I can't quite announce it, but we will have a very strategic investor that is going to be a part of this project. It's going to do something that hasn't been done in Pittsburgh before
that's so
from
exciting.
an experience standpoint.
Wow.
To little teaser. But,
skydiving into the stadium. No.
Well, it might be cooler than that. But
cooler than that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, where I was going is Brewers Block, a lot of these Oxford projects, and even this one, there isn't any public subsidy. We're paying full taxes, and the economic generation from that project back to our government is something that I value in that partnership, because, again, in government, when we took office, when the county executive honorado took office in 2004, that was unheard of.
Right.
There was no reason to have anyone do a market rate project without tons of public help, because no one felt anyone would want to live there or work there.
Right.
And so over those 20 years, how Pittsburgh has changed, it's been fun to watch. It's been fun to watch.
I love that idea of the privatization, and but it takes somebody who understands. Again, it takes someone with your experience and understanding to be able to merge those two and to understand the different levels of it. I too worked on the Hill. I worked for Senator Hines.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I worked on the Environmental Act. And I always thought that, while I was in law school at GW, but I always thought that should be a requirement for all of us to work on the Hill.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, just to understand that when we see one person, how many people are behind that one person, and the different kind of motivations that everybody has, and how intricate it is. I think then we wouldn't be so reductive in our and simplifying things so much that we're so polarizing with one another. We might maybe have a little more compassion and understanding if everybody had that opportunity. So we're really lucky that we had that opportunity, don't you think?
Well, I mean, he was such a tremendous individual, and the tentacles that you've talked to people that have worked with him in Pittsburgh, and
Senator John Hines.
Yeah. Just
amazing.
his legacy here is
I mean, I have a whole theory on that. That's a whole nother topic, and it's but boy, it sure would have been a different world. A lot of it too, though, was this idea of this public-private, and I think that's really cool that you're really bringing that in. Is that something that we need more of in this region for a thinking, instead of the that where you're saying where it's all based on
We're
funding.
creating an environment right now where development becomes the enemy, it feels like.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, wait a minute, right? Why is that? In other walks of life, we consider ourselves entrepreneurs. Every new project's a new business. And the only way that's successful is if we're successful as a region. And I think the value we bring, obviously, is we return tax money. And you can then take that tax money and you could use that to do what you want with it, whatever your policies and missions are as a government. And it feels like we're creating a narrative here that puts us against each other. And it's more politically convenient than saying, hey, we're all in this together. And all those statistics you just said, that should be a talking point out of every person that's speaking on a microphone in Pittsburgh that has some leadership. And we should talk about how to grow it, and what that means for our citizens in our region, and all those things that we want to accomplish.
I mean, I want to get T-shirts on that say number 3.
Number 3. I mean,
that is just unbelievable. Is it unbelievable that we've attained that stat? I mean, 20 years ago, this city, when we first started WHIRL magazine 20 years ago, this city was gray. That's what they called it, the gray city. You're never going to find anything here. The brain drain, everybody's leaving. And I said, let them. They're going to come back. They're going to come back so much wiser. Let people leave. Why in the world would we not do that? And you're the prime example of it. You leave, you take it, you come back. You don't have to come back, but if you do, you come back with the refreshed and ready to roll, I think. But
Well, I would tell you a statistic too, because it's I think it's important, as we were talking about a lot of these places where people live, all these young people. The inventory of apartments in Pittsburgh, I'm not just talking the city, I'm talking our greater sort of like our MSA. Just the inventory we have now, you're probably 20,000 units less than a Cincinnati or Chicago or a Cleveland. We have such a low inventory of housing. And if you look at new supply of housing, we deliver the least amount of new housing than any of the Rust Belt cities. And I say that because we're having these debates about certain situations with housing, and we're trying to make it harder to build that housing. And it's like, we have one of the things that we preach to new investors coming to Pittsburgh, because they look at population, they look at these other things, and they say, we basically say, there is never a situation where you're going to have be oversupplied in housing in the Pittsburgh region. We are historically undersupplied. We don't bring on new supply because of all those geographic issues we talked about, because we don't have a beltway, because we have a tunnel in some areas. People don't want to do the tunnel thing, whatever the situation. So the biggest selling point we have to, let's say, at that new investor that is looking to put $100 million to work in some markets, is that come to Pittsburgh. Nashville, they built 20,000 too many units. And now, they're giving them back to the banks, right? You're not going to have that problem in Pittsburgh because you just can't physically build the amount of housing you need because of all the things we just talked about in terms of where you can actually build it. If it's not like this, where are you going? So I only say that too because when you look at these communities and you see the people that are living there, it's refreshing. You see diversity.
Oh, it's so exciting. Our numbers our Asian population is growing.
Mm-hmm.
Our Hispanic population is growing.
Yep.
Our Black population is diminishing, and that's a concern. But we are becoming more diverse,
mm-hmm.
and the age that the 20 to 24 being our largest is, to me, is shocking, mind blow, so hopeful.
Yep.
I just see so much hope for Pittsburgh with that. And like you said, I really want to engage them. And that's where we need people like you, because I don't know what you look through. I have no idea what you do, where you're able to look through and see what's going to be happening 20 years from now, where you actually find a place that is perfect for your daughter. I mean, you live a very wonderful life.
Well,
To be able to see that happen
no, I
is
appreciate that.
amazing.
Yeah, I would say, you know, the one thing we are going through in real estate in all markets, not just Pittsburgh, is obviously we had a big change in interest rates. We had a big change in how people use one of those asset classes, which is office, and those are hard things to work through right now. And so it's been fun locally to kind of see. You can touch and feel it. That's what's fun about Pittsburgh. But also, we're still working through challenges as an industry.
About
And
what to do with the empty office
office,
spaces.
everything that you built it to a certain valuation, and now that valuation's a lot lower because what drives that in real estate is the cost of capital, the cost of debt, and that's changed dramatically right through COVID. So it's definitely going to make development a lot harder. It's going to make real estate a lot harder because it costs a lot more now. But for Pittsburgh, I would say invest your money here because, I would rather have it here where I'm not dealing with thousands and thousands of oversupply issues that you're dealing with in a Charlotte, in a Nashville, in an Austin. You don't have those issues in Pittsburgh. I think you have opportunity to grow here.
That's the best thing I've heard. And it has been so wonderful talking with you, Shawn. Just so much success to you. And we'll be watching what you do with Oxford Development.
Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations to all the successes of WHIRL.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of WHIRL Cafe. We hope you enjoyed it. And please stay tuned for more exciting episodes where we're going to be showcasing the exciting things, people, and places of Western Pennsylvania. Be sure to subscribe to WHIRL Magazine, advertise with us, and submit your wedding to become a legacy couple for our WHIRL Wedding Guide. Check it all out at whirlmagazine.com.